I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
present.
Page,
Here.
Painter,
Yes.
Wolfersberger,
Here.
Cummings.
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, we are going to go to public comment. You are here for public comment. Make sure you signed it.
Good. Joe, did you send this?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got extra copies if somebody doesn't have.
Did you have any?
No, I have.
In your notes?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so most of you know me, Jeremy Anka, it's 2 Magnolia Drive. So yeah, so kind of put a bunch of like stat and data together. If you guys have had a chance to look at it, of just how pickleball's grown in the last couple of years, especially the last year. I'm not gonna go through all the numbers and stuff. I know one of the things last time I was here, somebody had asked about the percentage of members. So we're actually up to 460 members, 61 members. The last time I was here a little over a year ago was 180, so that's doubled. About 50%, 48% is from St. Joe, and the rest is from the surrounding areas. As far as age and gender and all that, that's what the graph is at the bottom there. So it is continuing to be a multi-generational sport, and we're actually trying to, I've already reached out to the junior high and the high school about getting some youth leagues going potentially. So, the second sheet there is just in the last 3 months, we've had 70 people join. And when we view, the viewing is just anytime we post anything like a tournament, open play and stuff like that. So roughly in the last 2 months, we've had 8,590 people come to the Facebook page and view that material. So why am I here? We started doing pickleball leagues this summer and fall. They've been a huge success. Just going from the spring to the fall, our team's doubled. We're starting to actually run out of room and nights to play. So again, I've talked to the junior high and high school. There's a lot of interest because we are starting to see more and more junior high players, high schoolers. We actually have a mother son that have come the last couple Saturdays, and that's kind of cool to see. So this isn't just for adults, it's for youth, it's for everybody, it's for retirees. We're gonna see retirees here. So not to call you out, Jennifer. So we've only done tournaments for a little over a year now. So the community festival was our first one a little over a year ago. This one this year, this is the one the mayor came to. We had 41 teams from all over the area show up. It was an all-day event. We're probably gonna have to move it to 2 days next year, just for the amount of interest that we have, and I had to just turn people away, just it's too many teams. So our tournaments seem to do pretty well in this area. We do give out gift cards to local businesses, a lot of and those are ones that we actually buy ourselves. We don't ask them to be donated. We actually go to Rocks or IGA and buy them. We don't ask for donations. We also want to do that part of it. So the fee that we take in for registration, we turn around and buy those gift cards. So a lot of tournaments in the area don't do that. They might have a gift card, they might have medals. We do medals for the top 3 and gift cards for the winners. So I think that's going to intrigue a lot of people to come here, which is part of the reason why we're doing it too, to help grow pickleball and St. Joe. We've also I started to work with the sports crib a little bit because I always get the same question about this time of year. Where do I play indoors? So if you do build a new rec facility here, maybe an indoor facility would be nice too, but the other things we want to talk about is we've talked about this back and forth with resurfacing the tennis court. nobody wants to do it, because it's just a small facility. Is there something that we can do different, either with that area or in Cole Park area? So, the other things we want to talk about potentially doing is doing kind of a message board on the outside of the gate area there by the park. Where we can list the tournaments, the leagues, local businesses actually, where to eat. I know people come here, our leagues are during the night, during the week. Typically, they don't eat before they play, but they go eat afterwards, so. They go to the Rib Cage, they go to Subway, they go to places like that, so. We were thinking about doing kind of a local business list as well for that. There's also a local sporting manufacturer where I work actually is looking to do a prototype outdoor pickleball net. And so they're looking for an outdoor area to test that in. So I said, I think I know a place. So that would, they're at least wanting to do one, but I could probably maybe talk them into a couple other ones. But if we had a nicer surface to play on, that'd probably go a long way. So I think that's a quick 5-minute version of all this. You guys have anything to add? No?
Just that the tennis courts are in a little bit of rough condition. As it with cracks and holes. Definitely. We need some resurfacing or a new area.
Right.
It's very limited.
Did we ever, was he looking into a different way of doing it than we had talked about?
Well, so Homer did it, and we were all excited about it. Until we went over to Homer later. And it kind of is falling apart, I think. Then just, I mean, it looks like it struggled or whatever, like.
What did they do? What kind of, did they resurface and?
They
it
did,
didn't
so
work
it's
out
on
well,
a,
or what was
it's on a concrete slab. It was their old basketball tennis courts, but it's concrete slab that they do some kind of crack filler and then basically like layer of stuff to like fill it in and to do like the surface, but from what Matt's saying, it sounds like the cracks are being exposed.
There's still humps there. I mean, Andy, what do you think? Am I?
It's more a cosmetic fix. It looks
Yeah.
nice when from a distance,
Right,
it's
yeah.
colored, but when you get close to surface.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah,
It's not
it's
that-
almost like it didn't last very long. That kind of scares me. To spend some money to do ours
Oh.
based on that, and then the same thing happens, and then we almost end up with a worse
Surface.
than we got. Cause it looks like, I mean, even after they did all that, you can still see their cracks underneath there, and they've got some mold and stuff they didn't quite take care of.
And that's been up for almost a year now, so
Yeah,
I guess it's a good test of it.
And we have had that on our part of our budget for more than 1 year. And is it my understanding too that the other company, it's, have we still been put on their waiting list?
I've emailed 3 different companies that I could find, one from Indy, one from Springfield, and one from the west suburbs of Chicago. And I've got an email response from one of them, the other 2 have not responded back to me. And I am it's kind of went cold since then. I don't know if it's because it's a busy season, but I have tried calling them, I can't get quotes back. So if you can find a company that can come do it, that'd be super helpful. But I don't know if it's because it's so in demand or what the deal is, but
I guess it's the demand, and this is only 1 court, so it's probably.
yeah, and we even have dimensions on what we would do and the work that's required, and I sent those to all 3 companies. So they know exactly what the job is. But I'm happy to share the names of the companies, and if you know other ones that would be interested in the work.
Okay.
And we would be open for suggestions with that too, because I know that is something just for the maintenance of the tennis court in itself. It's been something that I know I had on the budget list probably before Joe came. And I thought we had something scheduled, and then something came up and it didn't get done, and apparently that company went away. It's my understanding, who might get reached in the past, but But no, if you guys have any ideas and suggestions, we'd be happy to get them and try to work with that company. But right now, part of the process is getting someone to even give us a quote to do it.
Right.
Um,
We're competing against places that are building brand new ones,
Mhm.
and we don't have the ability to do a brand new one. And we're talking
unless,
about,
of course, you want to do some big fundraising.
well, if you want to do that, that's, yes, but.
Big donors, big donors.
Ours is more of a rehab type of project, which isn't high dollar like what some of these other competitors do. So I'm assuming that's why we're not getting a lot of interest back, but, maybe with it being winter really soon, I will continue to try, but if you know of other companies that can get quotes from, or
Would,
give our information to, I'd love to.
would pouring our own like concrete slab be an option?
We got a quote last year for a concrete slab, and I could scan that to you, what that price was last year. And then you'd have to advocate to the board on if they want to do that, but if I remember correctly, it was $30,000 for the size of concrete slab that would be needed for 3 courts. And that doesn't include any of the striping or anything like that,
So
so.
we wouldn't worry, I'm just gonna, Jeremy is the head honcho here, but I wouldn't worry about the striping or anything.
No.
If we could get a pad,
That's what we
I
need.
think we could even do what Homer did.
Mhm.
I think that theirs was on a existing court, that's why they had so much issue. I think if we had a brand new slab there, we could work with that. And we could take care of all that stuff.
Yeah, we could do the
And then we can
striping.
try to get donors for fencing and lighting and stuff like that. But the pad would be the big thing, or even if we did the pad this year or in the spring and then,
Mhm.
you
Then
know, wait a
slowly
couple
add
years.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, add the fencing, add the lighting. add
because
the
I feel like
screening.
for them to repair it, it's gonna be as much as it's gonna cost us to have a pad. So,
I mean, we for sure need to keep it on our list of maintenance things too, because we need to maintain our property that we already have. And I said, I think the biggest thing, I'm all for all of it, because I think it's you guys are doing great with the numbers, and it's exciting to see the activity out at Cope Park and the people that it's bringing to the community. Unfortunately, as you've heard this before, the financing for any of our park stuff is, we have to share that with the big projects in town also. And so trying to make it all spread out amongst our big projects and just the daily maintenance expense too, makes it tricky at times. But I personally would love to work with you guys as best we can and get you guys whatever you need set up out there so that you can make it a great facility and bring in people to use that park and make the most of it. Just getting the funding and everything all pulled together to make it happen, but I think I'm just speaking for myself, but to me, having the facility to have that happen, I don't have a problem with working with you guys. I don't know what the rest of the board feels as far as, having Cove Park, do that. I think it brings in a lot of people to other things on Cove Park. Hopefully keep some of the vandalism down if we keep good things going on.
More people there. We can have pickleball leagues every night. And not worry about it.
Hopefully that would be, to me, it's always a deterrent if there's good activities going on at the park.
Right.
To keep some of the bad activities away. I don't know.
For your information, it's the US Tennis Court that's the name of the company, that's the one near Chicago, it's Lockport, Illinois. The second one is SBC Global, that is the one out of Indianapolis. And then the third one, who actually gave us a quote the year in 2023, is All Weather Courts. That's the one out of Springfield. So if you know of any other ones, I'm happy to. But if you look online, I mean, it's kind of. I haven't had any luck finding other companies, but if you can find one, I'm happy to get quotes from those.
And the quote that you got that you're referring to, the one that's like in the $30,000 ballpark, and was that just for resurfacing the tennis court itself?
Yeah, it was.
So that's not for like doing this, like putting different courts, that was just
No.
resurfacing.
It's just
the
resurfacing the one we have.
Which I agree with the mayor. You still have to get it resurfaced. I know I said that, 30 grand, let's get it done or whatever, but. I mean, it still works. It's
Yeah,
still-
it works. It's
it's
definitely
still
better
nice.
than.
Or, I mean, the cracks are getting more and more prevalent, but,
They're not as
I
bad
mean,
as
it's
the
still,
sports complex.
it's way better than the sports complex was, where
Yeah.
every other shop was cracked. So,
35,479 in 2023 was to resurface and then restripe the courts. So I'm assuming with everything else, it's probably 40. Yeah,
I don't know, does it make sense? I'm just throwing ideas out there, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but, since we had kind of put that amount into our budget for the resurfacing, if the concrete new pad was roughly the same amount, even, I mean, yes, we're kicking a can down the road for the resurfacing, but if we can't get a company to come and do it for us at this point, it's getting kicked down the road,
Can we not tear
no
the
matter what, I mean, because we
tennis
can't,
court out and
yeah.
research or put a new pad right there? Use the fencing that we have, might have taken it down and get it out of the way, but to start with.
That I have no idea. I mean, there's people in our group that I know do like concrete work, so I don't know. I can maybe talk to them and see
I hate
if
to
he could just maybe
throw
go
out the
over
whole
it.
thing. I
What?
really would. I'd hate to throw out the whole thing.
Yeah,
Because it's still usable. So if we don't have enough courts already. So if you were able to pour four somewhere else that were just pickleball courts, and we still shared the tennis courts, that'd give us 8 courts.
Well, maybe it would
To
buy
go.
you some time
Right.
if you're not using the tennis court as frequently if you have a new court.
Yeah.
That maybe it would buy you some more time that we could keep budgeting and trying to get someone here to eventually get it resurfaced. I mean, yeah, I don't think we need to neglect it by any means. It needs to be done at
Right,
some point. But it might buy us some time. I don't, this is just an idea.
I see what you're saying though. Put in the pad first and then whenever the tennis court gets
Yeah.
done, it gets done.
Okay, so what is the pad? I mean, I'm pickleball
concrete pad.
illiterate, so what's the difference between pouring the concrete? You're talking about the pad, are you talking about concrete?
Concrete pad, yeah,
Just
it's a concrete pad, yeah.
Have you talked to anybody like locally, like
I've talked to
the
one,
Knipper family or, the own Sport Ready Mix from Deuce to see if they would possibly
I haven't yet, just
consider
because I
making a
did.
donation?
I have,
The,
I have a quote from 3 different places for the Cole Park.
For concrete.
Or 2, I'm sorry, 2 places. So one company was $39,250 for a concrete pad, and then the other company was $44,900 and add $750. To that. For
are
the
those
concrete-
recent? Or is this also like from a year ago?
It's from a year ago.
Now, maybe I'm not supposed to say this. Probably should.
Probably
Bill had
that.
mentioned they're gonna be pouring concrete over there on Elm anyway, that maybe we could massage them a little bit to see if they wouldn't go ahead and pour a pad while they're over there. Would it be, since the stuff's already there, does it bring the price down? And since they're already doing work for us.
I can ask Stark and see if it would be an extra job. And I'll talk with Jim, our engineer, and just see if we can actually get something like a formal, like quote from them during the time that they're here. I'll do that right now.
Well, let me ask you this, I mean, and I'm not against that, going to build something, but don't you still have to go ahead and put that compound stuff over it
Yeah,
on that, so now you're looking at another 30,000?
no,
No,
that stuff is,
I think Homer said it was $3 grand total.
What they do, epoxy or what?
I'm not sure what it was. It was
I
only a
was
couple
wondering if you
thousand.
couldn't put a box, probably not.
I don't know, I'd have to research it. It wasn't another 30,000, it was only a couple thousand. It wasn't like big 5 gallon. And then there was like a 55 gallon drum. I was over there one day to help with it.
They just bring it out and everything?
Yeah, like kind of like a squeegee, big
Yeah,
squeegee
is
kind
what
of
I
thing.
saw on the YouTube.
Yeah,
It sounded like you're epoxy, but I mean, a lot of that stuff, you go ahead and stripe it. You put like a base in, then put the, or striping you
That's what
want
it
it.
was.
Yeah, that's what it
Base
is.
in and everything,
Yeah.
and then you color your different.
yeah, with like different like layers of stuff and the coloring and everything, so. You know, it looked nice, like Max said, but I think the surface they put it on wasn't the best. So I think the material, the surfacing, you know, what liquid, whatever they put on was good. It's just the surface that it was going to wasn't the
I mean, if
best.
that's suitable, the only problem I can see over cold part, and that's with the trees, because most times you want, I mean, that stuff gets in, you're not getting it out, leaves and one thing, another.
Yeah, I was there the one day we had leaf blowers going because it was starting, they were coming down, so we had to kind of like shoot the leaves off as they were coming down.
Yeah.
I appreciate all the work that you guys have done to make it all happen as it is. I mean, there's been numerous times I've gone out there and I see various people from your club out there weed eating and
That's a yearly
doing,
task.
yeah, doing projects that I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like out there working at the park, but you know, and I appreciate the time and effort that you are to make this happen. Cause I think that's what makes the program successful is if you guys put skin in the game and, you know, work towards it too, that, makes it work out a whole lot better for things actually to happen. So
And we
I-
got plenty of people to help do whatever, so help work concrete, wheelbarrow, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk to the one guy and see
Yeah.
what, I mean, he even talked about maybe donating some, so we could look into that, but I don't know.
I
Does
mean-
it get sticky with the, you know, village or whatever, and with prevailing wage and all that stuff? Like Angela said, if we could get people to donate.
I mean,
concrete
you know,
and stuff like
there's a
that.
lot of connections to Sport Ready Mix and Deuce Construction in this town. Who are supportive of St. Joe, so
I
that
wonder
might be a good outlet.
If somebody donates time, are they subject to all the constraints and the contracts, prevailing wage, one thing or another?
I think that's a Mark question.
He's hung up on his cigarette.
No, I was looking up something had to do with the open meetings act, to be honest with you, but you're not in trouble, I was just. So what exactly are you thinking you're wanting to do?
I'm just, the question is, if they had, like, they got a lot of people willing to step up. If different people, their skill, expertise was put in there, they volunteered. What kind of constraints or limitations would we have under the contract? So if you. had
None.
None, so if they volunteered it.
We're not paying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not like you can't underpay
You're worried
volunteers.
about prevailing wage somehow applying to volunteer work and it wouldn't. But to the extent that you paid someone to come pour the concrete slab, that would be something that would have to be.
so anything that you actually had to pay labor.
Yeah,
Everything like that, but material is just be face value, so if people volunteer to pay, for it.
yeah, so you buy a bunch of lights, you get to buy them and then the volunteers install them all. Yeah, you're not in trouble with anything.
Okay. You go back and read about your city.
I'm thinking, yeah, and, I mean, the only side issue you worry about is, okay, they're gonna get hurt on our property doing stuff for us, things like that. But, you know,
Can you sign a waiver to preclude that?
not really, you can, but I think you talk to your insurance company. I mean, municipalities do this all the time. So I think it's something you advise your insurance company that you're doing and then follow whatever the guidelines is they give you just in case.
I guess that'd be about the same as if you had the scouts in some way do something.
Yeah, the more common thing that we'll have is, you know, we'll get a grant for like 300 grand for new park equipment. And, usually what happens is, as a community, we come up with people that'll actually install all of it.
Mhm.
And then the park equipment company will provide somebody who can say, yeah, this is what bolt you're supposed to use, help read the directions. And then all gets installed, and that all works out okay. In fact, when you're applying for grants for stuff like that, you can come up with an estimate of the value of the volunteer labor force as part of your contribution towards getting it done. So that kind of thing's done all the time in
Okay.
municipalities.
Okay.
Rob, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, years ago, when we put the Pony League Diamond dugouts in, Deuce donated the contract for the slabs, and then the union that did concrete work and brickwork and all that and everything else got some of their guys because they were sick and tired of building stuff in a building. So they donated their times to come out on a Saturday, and they did all that block work and all of that stuff on the dugout. So there is avenues out there where companies will donate material, donate labor, and the unions are big into doing that because of the fact they want that community service type of project for their folks to do. So that's an avenue.
Use
Deuce.
construction.
Yeah,
Karen
I'll give you
Knifer.
my card and I can get you all Mike Ducey's information.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. And then we could put solar panels above them as a range.
And Dan, like Danny Wilson,
Yeah.
you know Danny Wilson?
Danny Wilson?
Yeah, he's like a foreman or something there, and he lives in St. Joe, he's on the homeowners association, he's the president
Yeah.
of the Crest Lake Homeowners Association,
Deuce are good people.
they are. And then Chris Kniffer,
Mm.
who is no longer here, but his wife is my neighbor, they own Sport Ready Mix.
So, and I just, I mean, it is the consensus here that no one has a problem with making Cove Park usable for pickleball and let some of these things occur. I mean, like I said, I think it's working out really well out there for you guys, but
No, we're not trying to steal little kid soccer or tennis from the girls team. They play at Atkins. I talked to Kevin, a couple of them will come up to the tennis court practice. We actually put a line on that metal board that we use and also the tennis team uses as well to help for practice. So we're not invading or pushing anybody out. We're just trying to use space that's.
And I can say this summer, the tennis, they had girls that would come up with their coach. And they would be up there playing and we would just say, oh, you know, how long will you be here? And they were like, oh, we're gonna be here this many more minutes. And we kind of even talked to them about what days they would be there and what days we would be there. So we were working with them. So we wouldn't interfere with their time.
I think it's generally that it's always easier to work things out. Communicate, so, but anyway, so, do we have some sort of a plan here to?
I guess I'll take all this information and probably just follow up with you guys on the contacts or whatever and. See if there's any big donors out there that just wanna, write a check and.
Well, and like I said, if we can get some final numbers too, then like I said, well, I know what we had initially budgeted for the other resurfacing, but I know we might be able to look at budget numbers and see how that might fit in to
Okay.
our pennies.
Yeah. And,
I have a question. Is there any way, I mean, because we've come here twice, this program does continue to keep growing. We appreciate the things that you have done for us, but is there any way or feasible way that you can like start budgeting a little, say, we're gonna put this towards pickleball, so
Yeah,
since it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and maybe every year it just a little more goes that way.
every year when we do our budget, we try to budget what we can for the parks, all the park things. Our biggest problem is, we don't have a directed revenue source just for parks. We have a few things that we have dedicated towards parks now, and over time, we're hoping to improve that. And that's one of our goals was to find a directed revenue source. We've got, the group that's working on the community building, that's why, because her
Yeah.
husband's part of that. That they're, you know, they have a foundation that over time, even though their main focus right now is community building out there at the park. But with that foundation, over time, it'll be a great revenue fundraising source for all parks and recreation. That is long overdue here in the village, but you know, the little bit of farm ground that we have out there, that money goes towards our parks. We redirected some of our money that for the gaming that goes on in town. Of course, that comes and goes as far as the amount that comes into that fund. We rededicated that towards the parks. And then already the telecommunication tax, which is right now, we still have a park bond out at the big park. So until that, and actually that, you know, will be a little better because that bond will drop off this year. So, you know, but right now the general funds is paying for that bond to get it paid for. So there'll be a little trickle of money from the telecommunication tax that will stay dedicated towards parks and recreation. So until we get a bigger, you know, a bit of revenue coming in, and we've tossed around different ideas, you know, to, you know, have a direct revenue source for our parks and recreation, because that's the bottom line. We don't have a park district. So unfortunately, the monies has to be shared with everything that goes on in the village. And so that's always been the issue, you know, and if we're, you know, we try to get grants for big projects sometimes, you know, because I said that's the other, I know Walmart and some of these other places sometimes will have little grants they throw out for playground equipment and different things, you know, and those are always helpful, but yeah, it's just always you know, you do what you can to get the resources to go, and like every budget, we try to budget what we can, and you know, we have to look at the most prioritized type needs, you know, if something needs a new roof, or you know, if something, you know, big needs to happen, of course, you may have to prioritize that. So because like I said, just with the resurfacing of the tennis courts, it's been on the budget for, like I said, I don't know, 3-4 years now, and unfortunately not being able to get somebody to do it has been a factor. And of course, I think COVID got thrown into that 1 year too. So it's been an ongoing thing, not necessarily because we've not tried, it's just, it hasn't happened. So, but no, we're hoping in time we can improve that situation, but we do try to budget to make it go as far as we can. So
I will say though, for my point of view, I mean, they bought us 2 very nice nets that were probably what, $6,000 out there for the thing that basically we don't use anymore. Then they turned around and bought 4 newer nets for us here and pitched in on the windscreens to help out. So, I mean, the board has done quite a bit for, I mean, I don't think they give that much to like soccer.
Soccer just got their first
Kids.
donation.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do appreciate.
They really, probably mostly me because I strong armed them, but.
What's the basketball court out there? Is it asphalt or is it concrete? Is it in bad shape? Never mind.
Yeah. I did think of one thing with the grant. I know Kevin Hartley gave me a thing on tennis grants, redoing tennis courts. With the one exception is you don't put pickleball stripes. But if that could get the tennis court resurfaced, then that's
Then
just
we could-
resurfaced.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that would maybe free up the money then for a concrete pad for pickleball. So I'll follow up with him on that though.
And I think, I think there's even grants out there if you're starting a new pickleball.
There might be
I
too,
mean,
but it's basically,
who would've thought?
there probably is. So,
Yeah, I said, you
I
guys
just don't
might
know
have
enough about
access to
that.
some of those, because I know with some other organizations that I've been involved with before, I know, you know, sometimes they're just small grants, but, you know, different companies and things sometimes offer various grants for recreational type things, you know, especially like I said, it's something popular. You know, for the playground equipment, I know is a big one that a lot of times you can find things, but like I said, with pickleball being so popular, there might be something out there to help with that, so. I know Art's excited about trying to get a restaurant. What was it, a restaurant, pickleball? What was it? Chicken and pickleball? Have you heard?
It was called Chicken and Pickles.
Yeah, chicken
And,
and pickles,
and,
yeah.
I was gonna go look at it, it was closed. Have you ever been to one of them?
Oh, I did this summer. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's, if I won the lotto, I would buy one and put it.
We have a great location for it, so.
Yeah.
There was one up there over at IML, and that was one of my destinations, and showed it was closed. So I thought, I'm going curiosity, just get a feel for it. I
Yeah.
like chickens.
I mean, there's one in, St. Charles near St. Louis, and then there's one over in Indy. Those are like the two closest ones. The one I went to was in Kansas City. And yeah, it's like BW3 / pickleball, bocce ball, outdoor ping pong, indoor, outdoor darts. It's awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to see it and just see it, something like that with the growth of pickleball. I thought, we don't get an idea that it's something, something to build upon.
Yeah, and there's huge facilities going up. I mean, we see it at my work all the time. And I know Bloomington, they're getting theirs, and eventually Champaign might have one next year. I think some people are looking into doing an indoor facility over by Elevate, so. Cause that's the big thing too, is like in the winter time where you go play, and there's really not any places to play. Florida.
One of our sessions, it was talked about, so.
Well, if you're gonna go ahead and force them in, you might as well think about going ahead and just look at, even if it's pole barn or something like that, you got construction costs of about $25 a square foot rough wise, and then that way you don't have to do all the extra preparation for the concrete when you pour it, that you would outdoors where you got drainage and, I mean, it wouldn't have to be quite as abrupt or anything else, and then much. I mean, it's just something to think about.
And yeah, that's some stuff I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I figure out how the stuff gets in there, not how the building's built. So, but that's why we're also kind of, reached out to the sports crew as well, because a lot of our players will go out there or continue just to go out there, the yearly memberships. I just kind of do the winter thing, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you for buying gift cards locally to give out as gifts. That's a great support for the community.
Yep, thank you.
And someday I'm
Oh.
gonna get brave enough.
And if you want to see some really good pickleball, come Monday night, it's coming up Monday, we are having our season ending tournament for both of our women's divisions, both of our men's divisions. It's gonna be all 4 courts, 3 to 4 hours worth of just constant pickleball, so, we would like to see. And then tomorrow night too, won't be as many teams, but yeah, tomorrow night is the mixed divisions. But Monday night we have 28 total teams playing on Monday night, so.
All right.
It's not-
Thank you very
Is
much.
that gonna be on the ESPN channel?
Yeah, we're trying to get ESPN Plus, show to come out. So, but it is a good time to see and watch it and check it out, so. But yeah, tomorrow night and then Monday night as well.
So when you have that many teams and these tournaments are getting bigger and stuff,
Mhm.
parking gonna start to be an issue.
Oh, it's already.
Yes, an issue, especially with all that construction going on.
That was the other night with Cub Scouts.
Cub Scouts, and then,
So,
People were parking in that grassy area.
Yeah.
So, all around Cold Park.
ideally the sports complex, but that would be a lot of work to get. Cause you've gotta put up fencing, windscreen, all that stuff, that's a lot of work, but right now it's manageable, but yeah.
Might
parking
have to
is-
start a shuttle from the parking lot over here.
We did consider that actually one year,
Yeah.
to do golf carts from the parking lot.
I'll drive a golf cart, do you pay?
Do you like pickle juice?
No,
And that's other things we thought of too, now that I thought of that, is, it was actually for the festival. I was setting up for the tournament here, and the, Mexican food truck thought it was at that park. And so they showed up there, and I said, you're probably supposed to be out at that park.
Oh,
And they said, we do pickleball tournaments, so we eventually might start having food vendors. Or local ones, maybe. We're doing the Moommobile is coming for the October tournament, the PDP tournament. So they're gonna be here for 2 hours selling ice cream, so.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next thing on our, it is the consent agenda. You have your regular, village board meeting minutes, the approval of the bills, and then we also have, the Comcast service agreement, which the explanation of that's kind of in your packet. It's just kind of a routine thing. We've been real happy with our, package that we have with them. I think Joe had it in there, so we've saved money since we've switched over to them. So if there's,
Any questions about the bills?
Did you ever find out when we actually got that John Deere lawnmower back? Joe?
No, I'm sorry, that is,
No, it's not.
just sorry, Art.
Well, and that's all.
It's like, it's early August or late July, it's right in that time, okay?
Well, I think everybody knows we get a significant cost on that, and I think that we ought to really consider. If you got somebody doing work like that, and when you got a machine down that long, do you really want to go ahead and buy another one from them? That's one of the things that Mike was advocating by. He's want to buy that $28,000 lawnmower, you know, and I think it's something.
Justify that now after $12,000.
It's our fault because we didn't go ahead and buy it.
Well, I know, but I mean, so if we would have known it was gonna be $12,000, couldn't we have just said, forget it and traded in on something new? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what all the dialogue and conversation was, but I mean, it could have been something like that. Or, but anyway, the thing I'm concerned about, even if we bought a new one, you bought a brand new one and it's down 4 months, is that acceptable? I mean, you're not gonna buy it, if your truck was down 4, you wouldn't be a happy camper, and that's something I know we're a small fish in the pond, but it's something we should consider when we're doing business with different ones.
and I still personally, I mean, this is getting a little bit off of the consent agenda, but I still would like to pursue the idea of checking. And just trying it a summer or two, contracting out some of the parks and things.
I don't disagree.
So,
Even if you just pick that one or two, then you can
I
try
mean,
it.
it seems like they're way behind on everything anyway. If you did that, maybe you free them up to do
Mhm.
other stuff.
I just, you know, I think it would be less wear and tear on the equipment that we have. Manpower, everything, and cost wise, it at the very least might be a balance there, but I don't know that, I mean, we could save money, but I don't think we would pay more money, honestly. I think we might break even there, and the guys would have, you know, more time to do other things, but anyway, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Page,
Yes.
Painter,
Yes.
Wolferson,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes,
Motion passed by.
Okay, on to new business. We have a presentation this evening in regards to the feasibility study that was done at the church renovation. Reach Stack, Wakefield and Fanning, and I will have you guys say your names because I'm not gonna be good at it, and I honestly have forgotten from when we met out of the park, at the building, so forgive me.
I'm Sean Bob, I'm the project manager of the Proof Second Painting, and
I'm Ryan Maris, I'm a team lead.
and so I think everybody had a chance to review the feasibility study. The village commissioned Proof Second Painting to do an existing conditions survey of a structure that was donated to the village. I'm gonna kind of go through the summary overview of what we found regarding the existing structure. And then Ryan will go through some of the feasibility options that we came up with to try and meet some of the program requirements that were presented. So in general, the structural components of the building, foundations, roof, et cetera, were in fairly good condition. There were a few minor exterior issues, downspouts that were crushed. As well as there wasn't venting in the overhead canopy that's over the drive-through. The exterior cladding was in good shape, sort of the windows and doors, there were some concerns with the windows just based on being a single pane and their age. Also, the sealants around them were deteriorated. But in general, on the exterior, that was kind of what was found. The roof appeared to be in recently replaced and in good condition. On the interior of the building, finishes were in good shape. They were a little bit dated. There were some code compliance issues that would need to be addressed. As well as in the basement, there was some water infiltration noted that would need to be explored further. If it appeared to either potentially be coming down through window wells that were open and then coming through the windows, but there's paneling on the walls as well, and so it was hard to tell without doing some exploration, demolition to determine if there's actually water migrating through like down near the floor slab in the basement. On the interior of the building, essentially, like I said, the existing finishes were in decent shape, stated. Their kitchen was functional, may require some modifications to be reconfigured for the new designs. The plumbing systems, there were some violations or inaccuracies noted, such as there was would need to be an additional urinal in the men's restroom on the first floor, as well as an existing or an additional fixture in the women's restroom. Both levels would need service sinks and a drinking fountain in the building. The HVAC system and electrical were both serviceable, but they really are at capacity. So with the new program, we needing to add additional service or replace those units with larger, more commercial grade units, as the ones that are in the facility are more residential grade. On the exterior of the building on the site, the interior, the existing stairs going between levels is not code for rise and run widths and heights. And the door hardware inside is not accessible, is not up to ADA accessibility. On the outside, the ramps and stairs, both at the south end.
The south and the east,
and
the main entry at the east.
And then as well as the west raised portion that extends down. None of those are to ADA code at this spot and would need to be replaced. I think that was in general. That's pretty much what we found as far as the existing conditions. Ryan, do you want to go through the?
Yeah, let's flip towards the back of the presentation. The middle portion just goes into more detail about the conditions we found. With some attached photos, you can see in more detail what the summary was explaining. So we'll go towards the back where we get to the plans that show 3 possible feasibility options that we're asked to take a look at now. You see the feasibility study right before the plans, give a general overview of the first page, general overview of all the changes that would be made that kind of spans all options. The major things that Sean had mentioned that the deficiencies were ADA. So all of the options that we are showing are reconfiguring those entry ramp. It needs to be longer and a wider width to be able to accommodate a wheelchair. The stairs would need to be redone to meet building code step height and run. And then the landing that going into the building would need to be bigger so that there is room for ADA movement. The stairs that go up to the communal area on the, let me say the south side, the stairs, the steps themselves are fine. It's the landing that's a bit older and the railings don't meet code. So redoing that landing, possibly getting to just salvage and redo attach those stairs. And then on the west side, the stairs going to the basement would need to be redone, and that's a potential also, our MEP consultant said that may be also a location where flooding is happening, so it would need to be looked at further, but that mostly would need to be redone, so that could solve that issue, but those stairs just need to be redone to meet building code, as well as provide a potential area of refuge for anyone in a wheelchair, depending on, we'll look some of the options that don't have an elevator to get to them. So looking at the first option, here we go. Okay. So we have that is option 2. There it is. There it is. So looking at the overall plan on the site, with this option, you can see this is looking at adding an elevator and reconfiguring an internal stair to meet code. So on the north side, we just have a little elevator addition on the side because adding it inside would take a lot away from your program, and you want to try to get as many offices and your conference rooms downstairs, as much space for that potential community gathering space. We would need to restripe that parking lot, but the current size of it would meet the required parking that you would need. So if you turn, we look at the first floor plan. We have on the north side, there's your elevator addition, and then in the southeast corner, we would do a L-shaped stairs there to be able to maximize the program upstairs and in the basement. Now, this would also be able to create a secured location. You could put a secured door there so that you could monitor who would be going down. The restrooms would also get a bit bigger in order to get that second toilet in the women's restroom and a urinal in the men's. And you could, with this configuration, with the stairs, we could probably get maybe 2 people in an office upstairs with a transaction window like you have here. The community room got a bit smaller than what currently is, but still can house about 50 to 70 people. With turning the current storage just into table and movable tables and chairs storage. This one does lack some of the storage that you need to be able to potentially do like a movable dais, or right, if you're trying to do a board meeting or something there. This option lacks some of that storage that you would need. Some of the other options do have a bit more storage, but this does prevent you from having to build an additional addition, which we'll see in another option. So if we go then to the next page, where is it, the basement plan. Looking at basement. We can get about 5 offices, your conference room that you can get about 10 people. We would try to keep and locate the new restrooms and the kitchen where it is, and keep all that plumbing and mechanical kind of where it is, reduce the amount of work that would need to be there. But then we can get a storage that could fit potentially 8 2 by 6 of those file storages that you have currently. And of course, looking at all these are all just conceptual plans. If you wanted to go with any certain one, the actual layout doesn't have to be set in stone, just to get an idea of what kind of program can actually fit in here. So 10-person conference room, 5 offices, a break room, 2 restrooms, and your file So moving on to the second option. This one looks at, rather than having to put in an elevator, doing it with a ramping system. Now, this would mean that a larger addition would probably need to be located on that north side in order to get that ramp to go from basement to first floor. You're looking at, it's 140 feet of ramping. It's not ideal, but rather than having to put in an elevator, this is another option to go. Same as the first option, you can get all the required parking in the existing parking lot. All of the entry stairs, ramping that we talked about is the same. The exterior ones are the same as the first plan. So if we look inside, because we are moving that stair out of the bit, like out of that main interior and putting it in this addition with the ramp, you open up a bit more of your space inside the building. So you can get a little bit larger office on the first floor with your transaction window, a little bit more generous lobby for someone to wait while they're having to drop something off or whatever they need to do here. And in this option, the community room would stay the same, but rather than just kind of a small warming closet that you could get in the first option, this allows an actual room that you could go into that whatever someone may need to do, it's a separate space for them. You also can get a larger toilet room for both men and women. And with this option, there is a bit more storage that can go in this addition for that lacking storage from the first option. So just a little bit more flexibility with this second option. Looking at the basement, you can get a bit another additional office in there, as well as a bit larger file storage. And an additional storage out in that addition. So with this second option, it's a bit bigger of addition, but you're gonna have more flexibility in the main building and a bit more storage. The third option is a bit more conceptual. We just kind of looked at a larger secondary event hall. If you wanted to add an addition, like you're looking at having more functions going on within this building. You can look at creating a fairly large event hall to the north. You would need to, with this larger space, need to add an additional parking area, most likely around the back of the building there, to the west of that. Looking at the larger plan, first floor plan. You could configure all that ramps and stairs on the outside with this new building. And the configuration of the first and second floor could just be very similar to that second option. There's that same amount of square footage essentially. So if you like that amount of space in that program that works within option 2, it works here in addition to your, if you wanted to create an additional event space for the community. Yeah, this one's just a bit more of the conceptual, and just to get an idea of where this event most likely would need to occur. Going to the south, you have your other property, and then moving west, you get more into your floodplain. So it would create more just site work and excavation if you were to go that direction. So your most advantageous would be to go to the north if you were to look at going to a larger addition.
So would that require additional restrooms?
It would all be able to fit within your,
that.
yeah, and you could do it in. For this is very conceptual and like looking at what you would want to figure out what you'd want to use it for, and that could be configured in. But yeah, you would put the additional restrooms in there. Yeah, keep them kind of separate from the other space. Yeah.
So I think with the 3 options, there's kind of an overview summary of them. everything on the exterior, roughly the same. Option 3, we're adding additional parking in a larger addition. There wasn't fully, it was sort of schematic, but in option 1, being the least expensive of the estimates, you're adding a very small addition just for the elevator tower. And then reconfiguring the stairs. You're sort of losing a little bit of the space that you're gaining on the other plans inside by moving those circulation features out of the space. The option 2 was the second most expensive, and then option 3, obviously, with the larger building was considerably more. In kind of reviewing some of the big picture costs, we did a breakdown that was not included in the study. In option 1, essentially the elevator itself, the equipment was right around $135,000, compared to option 2 that wouldn't have that in it. Option 2, some of the things that moved the cost up that were not in option 1, about $160,000 for floor assemblies. So a combination of the ramping and the walls. We'd have much bigger roof structure at about $45,000, and then concrete foundations and for the ramp at about $23,000. So the addition of those kind of takes over the $135,000 and then adds up to the difference. Trying to think if there's anything else. There was, most of the other costs were very similar from option 1 to option 2, plus or minus $5,000 or $6,000 in each of the categories.
And with looking from option 1 to option 2, your mechanical, because you are adding an addition, you're gonna see mechanical create quite a bit more of the space, more space to heat, cool. So you'll see that's where you see some of the differences with mechanical, electrical, all sections of it. Yeah, that's the more high overview of some of these options. For your consideration.
What does it cost to maintain an elevator? I mean, you have to have it inspected, or
You need a yearly inspection on it. I don't know off the top of my head the cost of that, but I could find that out for you.
I just was curious.
You can ask the church. I mean, I think it's not a whole lot, but it's still, the elevators are a big pain in the ass.
Well, isn't theirs broke down right now?
Might be, I mean, probably the best thing ever happened.
Yeah, my understanding, seniors had to be switched last week because the elevator was down, so.
I mean, they're a horrible thing to keep up, and it's just a drain on that church, so.
I'm just curious. I knew there was an inspection involved, but I didn't know.
I don't
Okay.
think the inspection's the big part, it's the constantly breaking down. Yeah,
The maintenance.
and there's only like a couple of companies that'll work on it. They're ridiculous to get there, and when they do, it's outrageous.
I know when we were at site, we kind of had talked about that, and I know it seemed like option 2 was a little more, seemed like it made more sense as far as then you didn't have to deal with the elevator at all.
Yeah.
But I personally think option 2 probably would make the most sense in getting what we would want out of the building. As far as the feasibility aspect of it.
I mean, it's something we'd like to have, but if we can't afford to service pickleball. We're middle and a half on redoing a building. I mean, how much are you looking at? Maybe just doing another building in its entirety.
Yeah,
Well, can we not jump on with the community building and move offices if there's a new community building? Can we not have offices, but that it would be out at the park, not downtown. But if they're talking about getting a building going,
Yeah, the only thing that I've heard through the years is, I mean, right now, the concept that they're working with doesn't allow for office space out there, not that couldn't change. But the idea that it's so far away from the downtown has always been kind of a negative whenever it's been talked about. As far as, you know, people paying their bills and all of that. Now, of course, that can change over time too, because more and more people do things online and various different things, but yeah, obviously, everything's always higher than what you expect it to be. I mean, obviously, I was hoping it would be about half of what it was projected to be. I don't think, I mean, I appreciate all the work you guys have done, and that tells us what we will have to do if we make this building, you know, our new office space. The location's great, you know, all the things. It was great that we had the building donated to us and all that. Building a new building like this, I'm guessing would cost, you know, even more than this, obviously, to build a fresh,
Yeah.
So if you built a new one, this is a lot. You know, like, do you need a community room that's gonna hold 70 people if we're gonna have that community building? Do you need 7 offices? Do you know, I mean, this is a lot. Like, if you know, just what about selling that building and building a new one? I don't know where that parking lot is or something, but one that's much more scaled down that, you know, we don't have to have a warming kitchen and,
So-
I mean, I mean, it's great, but.
so that and this, and if the community building is a go, make adjustments to or ask them to make adjustments to their plan out there. That mean,
And that's potentially an option too. I mean, because it's in the early stages of, I mean, that would just be something we'd have to decide is, you know, do you want to be away from the downtown and be off-site, you know, towards the park?
No, but you're gonna have to staff it anyway.
yeah,
You'd
eventually,
already have staff there.
at least
Yeah.
during the day,
Yeah,
it would be there,
Yeah,
Where?
the community building out there,
anyway,
We
but,
would have to staff it?
eventually.
well, that's all part of the
That's
program that
that's
they're.
the Recreation Foundation.
Yeah, that's what they're planning on figuring out, but no, I appreciate you guys. Do you guys have any further questions for them? I mean, this is, you know, what we were wanting to get from our feasibility study. I mean, obviously, that's what we have to do to give, you
Right.
know, how it's gonna work and what it would cost.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that it was donated. I think that the biggest issue is that the current vertical circulation isn't code. And that because of the municipal use, you need accessible access to 2 floors.
Mhm.
If it was a single story building, there's a lot of the costs that wouldn't be in it. If you end up selling that and building another one, I would recommend a single story building.
Right.
Because then you're not dealing with elevator maintenance costs and losing real estate to ramps and stairs.
I do have a question, and that's, how come $200,000 for heat and air? I mean,
Those, not gonna be really great to talk on the cost stack, because I would have been our MEP consultant, but I know that they evaluated the systems that were out there, those were residential grade. I know that I'm making the assumption that they put in probably a more commercial, heavier duty system, not one with all bells and whistles. But at this level of conceptualization too, they're basing it on a square foot number, and so that number might adjust as the program adjusted and things got refined. Much like our costs, we are referencing RS means as a historical cost estimation, and then kind of balancing that with other projects that we've had in the historical data where we know things might fluctuate off of that. And so it's really just plugging in the numbers based on square footage and quantities. I'm assuming that this was based on, prevailing wages also. And so that might have taken up some of
Would
the,
that be considered like new construction too, with all new ducting and all that? Or is it just? is
I
it-
think there was gonna have to be some new ducting.
I'm sure it was with different systems, but I just, that's like, that kind of stood out to me, 200 grand for a furnace or two, or.
was the 200, that was just the,
I just saw, it said HVAC,
yeah.
217,000.
That's on option one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the electrical was, that was the same too, wasn't it?
Mhm.
About two.
yeah, 'cause I think,
It's
Yeah,
273 on number two, but I mean, it just seemed like that's a ton of money for.
If you'd like, we can ask and get a little bit more clarification on that number, but
If it comes up, you can share it with Joe, but I think that a lot of that you just need to kind of digest. To me, this right now, you gotta kind of look at it and digest, because it's like, forget sticker shock. You know,
yeah,
you might have a free building, but it wasn't free.
oh no, I 100% agree with that. And, you know, we've had sticker shock on many projects over the last couple of years. I was just involved with an addition down in the EIU on a building that's wood frame, single story. We were adding 1,000 square foot addition and it came in just under $1 million. And we were reusing most of the existing services. We had a conference room, a bathroom, a large classroom, and a mechanical space for a new furnace. And that's just, it was wood frame, single story. It was just a lot of money. They ended up changing and renovating inside to do the same spaces, but it's just sticker shock, and it's kind of where things have landed after everything that we went through in the last couple of years.
I believe they did, at least with this, because they couldn't quite get up in the ceilings to see what's going on. They took the assumption that it needed to be all new and use that more as a conservative number. It could become that once you look up in the ceiling, maybe those configurations aren't quite as needed. But I think they took the conservative route, and maybe that's why they were probably estimating, quite a bit higher than if they could just reuse some of that duct work, but,
Well, I just.
yeah.
I just, that kind of stuff, plumbing, you don't know, because you don't know what you're gonna have to dig out or replumb, or, I mean, it's just like the option one, when I look at the elevators, kind of like, why wouldn't you put that closer to the front and move the bathrooms on down, because the plumbing upstairs, it wouldn't be hard to reconfigure that, and it really wouldn't get in the way too much, I think. But, that's here or there, I guess, Joe, you got that kind of money we throw around?
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and, we got what we asked for. Unfortunately, it's higher than what we wanted, but anyway, but no,
Well,
I appreciate the work that you did on it.
Absolutely.
So,
It's something appreciate your work, it's just like, wow. But like everything else, maybe that's just a sign of the time, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
appreciate it, thanks.
Have a great night.
Thank you. So, the material that you have, I think, like I said, we know what it would cost for us to do that out there. I think we, take our time and look at all of our options as far as, obviously, we know we've outgrown, we've got things to think about for the future, as far as office space and the community, but we do have the potential community building being built up the park, and we do, we have some property over here where our parking is, of course, parking is, and, there would probably be sticker shock to it too. We have this property here already too, that if you built onto here and used up some of the parking that's here, we do have the ability to expand more municipal parking just around the corner, which you know, people have to walk a little bit, but it's still right in your downtown. It's still, any municipality has parking. When you have parking, you have to walk a little bit, you know. So we've got options, you know, yes, I'm disappointed that this might not be what works out for us, you know, but
I don't see this working out at all.
Okay.
I would never vote to spend the money on this, but I
Yeah.
can tell that from walking through it, how much it was gonna be. It was great that they, you know, dropped that in our laps, but if you decided to build another building, you could build one that is you know, bigger than this, that has more offices, but it does not need to be this kind of a grandiose scale, especially now that we have the gathering place. I know that doesn't mean they're gonna be there forever, but, you know, that's an option for people to, you know, this big community area that you know, worked out for the, and plus with the building, if you were to build something else, I would scale it way down.
yeah, I personally had absolutely no idea it would be that expensive. Like I said, and you know, it's hard to know. I mean, I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, you know, we'll reconfigure this, reconfigure that, you know, I'm thinking like $500,000, you know, to get it all done, but,
That's
But-
kind of what I thought. I mean, I would look through it and look at different things, age and how that, and I realized some electrical and all that, but I thought, well, we had 350 for a community building and something like that. We're probably up 400,000 or 500,000. I was not expecting.
yeah, I
But,
mean,
you know.
that's how, but, you know, that's why we do what we have to do. I mean, it's just the reality of things. So, we know now, and, you know, we look at all of our options, and then we move forward. So,
Cause like here, like what do you need here to make this workable here? Like 2 more offices? 3 more
Probably.
offices?
probably at
mean-
least, over time, you're gonna need probably more storage. Yeah, in our meeting space, I mean, could be enlarged a little bit, I mean, but if we, you know, keep everybody happy in the community where people aren't showing up and going crazy, no, I'm just saying, no, yeah.
I like this little space.
Yeah, normally our meeting
Limits
space is
the mob.
efficient, I mean, we've had some big crowds before. And a lot of times if we're anticipating a ginormous group of people, you know, we have done it at the school before too, on if we know there's a topic that's gonna generate a lot of people, you know, we can always plan that meeting in another location. We've done that before, so, but yes, we have to watch our dollars and cents. I mean, we're talking about struggling to spend 30-some thousand, 34, you know, for additions to the park. And so, yes, all these things have to be considered. So, you know, I think we take our time, put the brakes on. I don't foresee this being an option for us at this point. But I think we take our time to figure out how we handle the property down here, what makes the most sense for the village. And then, you know, figure out what we want to do for the future municipal building. So, but fortunately, we're in a position where we don't have to rush into anything. So I think
How much are the property taxes on that building or the church?
I have to look, I'm not
yeah.
positive.
And the great part about that property still is all that farm ground potentially will be very useful for us for drainage. Because we had talked about that way before the donation was ever given to us, that ideally we needed to at some point get that farm ground through there for the purposes of drainage, because that's, if you look at the map, it's all blue because it's all floodplain back behind there, and the water naturally flows that direction, and eventually helping with our drainage in the village, that will be a perfect, similar to what they're like doing in Champaign at Garden Hills. You know, they bought up a bunch of those properties because that's where they needed the retention and things, and we naturally have it there already. So, you know, I think in time, that for sure is a plus for us, you know, so, anyway, so item number 2 is authorization, to submit a grant application for the ED program. Do you guys have any questions for Joe on that? All the information was in your packet.
You need a motion for that?
Yeah, the reason is, there'll be a time commitment from staff, because we'll have to go through a training program briefly for this, so we'll just have to commit some staff resources to that if we're selected for it. But otherwise, I'll get it finalized and submitted by the end of the week.
It's important to have that. Yeah. I make a motion, we accept that.
Second.
Dana,
Yes.
Wolfensberger,
Yes.
Cummins.
Yes.
Brad,
Yes,
Page,
Yes.
5-0, motion passed.
Okay, you know, old business, Joe has your update and things in your packet. Do you have anything to add to that, Joe? No? Mark?
Actually, I do, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
One of the key points was that we're almost drawing down our federal grant funds that was given to us. So the ARPA money will be done next month with that. So we had a deadline coming up, which we were kind of up against the wall, like a lot of places are right now. And so we'll meet the deadline,
So it'd be a matter of just submitting the paperwork and getting all that taken care of.
get it knocked out.
Okay, very good. Did we get the money from the county yet too?
No. But I will follow up with them. They had their meeting last Thursday and it's pretty sure that it would be out by now, but I'll follow up and see. They have all of our stuff, so.
All right, Mark?
I don't have anything to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. I'll try and think of a few questions before you go. No. Mike?
Yep.
Is Mike on? Right? So,
No.
all right, the only thing I have is, well, 2 things is, yes, I am going to have the fall costume parade. That'll be October 26th. We're working on that. Also, I'll be working with, the girls in the office, Ashley and Debbie and Nora, and potentially a person from the Church of Christ for our Christmas tree lighting, starting to put together the details on what we want to do for that. And then, but I also want to say, those that went to the conference this past weekend, I once again felt like it was a great learning experience. I know, you know, we already talked about the chicken and pickleball thing, but you know, that was in one of the retail sessions that I've gone to the retail sessions 2 or 3 other times in previous conferences, and it's always interesting because things change so much with retail and marketing and how, and you know, what's so important for communities is to stay on top of that so that you know, and I was pleased to see that some of the things that we are currently now doing are what they recommend, you know, by having, you know, our economic development consultant and going to the trade shows and stuff that, you know, those are things we had never ever done before. And I know in previous conferences, you know, they talk about, I'm like, oh gosh, we really need to do that to get our name and stuff out there. And that was exactly, and I know they talked about one thing that was outdated, and it is something that we did here at the village years ago, was the, you do a study to see where your, it's, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head now, but it's basically showing you where you're losing
Leakage,
retail, what's it called?
leakage.
Yes, the leakage thing, and we've done that. RPC did a study for us to figure out kind of what businesses and things we're lacking here in the community, what we have too much of and all that. But they, you know, apparently those kind of studies are outdated now. They get more information from doing some of these other surveys and things, but you know, I'm always very appreciative of having the opportunity to learn some of that stuff. To me, that was a good session. We also have up and coming, starting this new year, is a new state mandate in regards to building codes. So we went to that session, and so that's gonna be, we picked up some, information on that, and so that's something we're gonna have to gear for the first of the year on how we're going to be compliant with the new mandate here, because it's a little different than what we currently are doing with building codes. So to me, that was a very useful session that we went to. But anyway, I think we all had a great time. Joe and Terry and Art, is there anything you want to add that you gained from the conference?
No, I thought that the keynote speaker, did
He was great.
fabulous, and I was kind of in the beginning wondering how he was gonna tie it into like why we're there, and I thought he did a great job. So that was, motivation for things, which was nice. Yeah, the building codes one was, I didn't have enough knowledge with that. That was helpful for me to dig into that as well, so.
I attended a lot of the TIF, and then besides that, the retail, went to several of those, and I thought some of the things they suggest enlightening. I did find, I can't, one of the presenters there, he was talking about trying to revitalize his town, and I thought it just sounds so reflective, and it's probably that way over. He said that he was trying to go ahead and, like, the Sears building had been shut down for 20 years. And he said now they're repurposing it and all that other, but he said you got a certain amount. He had 14 aldermen on his council, and everybody kind of groaned. He said you got a lot of them. He said it's been that way all the time. They don't want to grow. They don't want anything change. And then you got others that want to. So I thought that's probably pretty good analytics about any town. You got a certain one that they don't want change, and anytime change, there's disruption, and you're gonna have a little bit of arguments, one thing or another. But I thought they're pretty interesting, different ideas they had. From what I gathered, listened to them, I think we're going pretty well in the right direction, maybe not as aggressively as other communities had, but they did mention about some properties, marking them, and that with you had, I guess you'd say unmotivated. They were talking about locating landowners that don't live around. One thing, there's so much of it is just reflective of what Joe and them's gone through on different properties. But no, I felt like that reinforced what we're doing, that we might be doing more, but I think what we're doing is right, going in the right direction.
Joe, do you have anything to add?
It was good.
Yeah, with the whole retail thing, I think that was the one that really struck me, because I said I've been to those sessions before and been frustrated that we weren't in a position to be able to be doing some of those things to get, our name out there. And so now that we are finally starting to move in that direction, I look back and think, oh my gosh, if we'd only been doing some of this 15 years ago or more, because I mean, it frustrates me so much to look at, as example, the boat graveyard, has sat there in that condition for 50 years, maybe, I mean, for as long as I can remember from being a person who grew up here, and to think that the value of that commercial property right off the interstate, because that was the big thing, that if you're off of an interstate or something like that for retail, is a big plus. And for us to underutilize some of the areas that we've had off the interstate through the years, I'm just happy that we're finally moving forward on some of that and actually gonna make some things happen. So anyway, but like I said, to me, the conferences are always good. I think they're, just like with the opening session being very motivational, to me, I always have found through the years of all of them that I've gone to is, yes, sometimes, you get doing this and, sometimes you get frustrated or, feel like you get beat up on and all the different things like that. But to me, it's always good, and you always come out refreshed and, you know, because for one thing, when you're talking to other communities and stuff, you see that you're not the Lone Ranger. That, I mean, we attended one session that had to do with conflict and, the people in your communities that want to change and, and so it was refreshing because you hear some of the same stories of things that you're dealing with right here in your community. So it makes you feel like we're not so bad here.
We're not the only ones.
Yeah, we're not the only ones that are dealing with some of these same things, and every community has those issues, those people, those, things that cause those issues, but. So to me, it's always kind of a little bit of a motivator and kind of recharges you when you go to those kind of conferences, so. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about that. Trustees, do you have anything to add?
I have something very minor, speaking of people not wanting change, is the Christmas decorations on the poles in town that everybody bellyached when we got the snowflakes or something instead of like these older vintagey, I mean, I'm calling vintage there, but the garland like ones that have been around, traditional. Yeah. I think that we should go back to this. I brought it up to Joe. I asked him about it because I saw it in the bills, the cost for it. Cause it's the same cost, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, because you could pick out different designs, and I know last year. I was the one who picked out the snowflakes. I know, but I always thought they were kind of classy looking, was trying to be consistent, but no, those are, we can switch, we just have to let them know in advance before they bring them to, so, if you have ideas or whatever, I mean, I need to get a hold of the girls in the office and I'll try not to cry really hard if you take away my snowflakes, but no.
Like, there's not a whole lot of things that we could do to make people in this town happy, but this is an easy one.
I know.
Except for you, you won't be happy, but I'm just saying.
Yes, well, I knew the blowback that I got the year that we didn't hang the lights and we just tried to wrap the poles. Oh my God. You would have thought the world was coming to an end, that, I mean, I heard it from my own two kids. So, and they're adults, they should be a little more adult-like, but they weren't. So.
I mean, I do though, I get the classy snowflakes all matching. If we would have white string lights across, and a snow machine like a Hallmark movie, that'd been all good. But I think that these do have more kind of small town charm.
We might just invite you to our first committee meeting with the Christmas theme and you can.
I have a whole list of things I want to do.
So, anyway, anything else?
I was gonna ask Joe, how many pages of notes did you take about the growth of pickleball?
They're just lucky I don't show up to play because I've been practicing, let me tell you.
Are you ready for next?
Oh, yeah.
I heard he gave this one a run for his money.
He didn't give us a run for it, he smoked us.
Oh.
So, all right, is there a motion?
Max.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll say it.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good